Imagine a world without electric light, where darkness ruled the nights. Close your eyes for a moment and picture yourself in that time. How did our early ancestors conquer the shadows that surrounded them? The answer lies in a discovery that changed the course of history: oil and wax. But how did they stumble upon these remarkable substances? And how did these simple materials become essential for human survival and advancement? In the depths of antiquity, long before modern lamps and candles illuminated our homes, humans faced a constant challenge: the darkness. They needed creative solutions not just to light their dwellings, but also to protect their bodies and preserve their food. It was in this context that oil and wax emerged as indispensable allies in their daily struggle for survival. Picture yourself in ancient times, when the setting sun meant complete darkness unless you had access to these precious resources. Oil extracted from plants and animals, along with wax carefully harvested from beehives, became the difference between navigating through pitch-black nights and having the power to push back the darkness. Today, we'll embark on a fascinating journey through time to explore how these discoveries revolutionized the lives of our ancestors and paved the way for innovations we still use today. We'll uncover the ingenious ways they used these materials, from the first crude oil lamps to the sophisticated wax seals that preserved food and documents. If you're passionate about history and eager to unravel the mysteries of the great empires, join us on this illuminating adventure. Welcome to the dawn of humankind, where we bring the past to light, one story at a time. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell to stay updated on our latest historical discoveries. Let's begin our journey into the past, where the mastery of light changed human history forever. It all began with a simple yet profound observation: animal fat burns. Picture our earliest ancestors huddled in the darkness of night, their world shrouded in shadows. Then imagine that pivotal moment when someone noticed how the dripping fat from a freshly cooked animal caught fire and produced a steady flame. This discovery wasn't just a happy accident. It was the dawn of controlled illumination, the first time humans could push back against the all-consuming darkness that had defined their nights since the beginning of time. As these early humans experimented, they discovered that melted fat could serve as fuel. They collected animal fat from their hunts and stored it for later use. With remarkable ingenuity, they crafted the first primitive lamps using materials readily available to them: seashells from coastal regions, hollowed-out stones, or small clay bowls fashioned by hand. But the fat alone wasn't enough. They needed something to serve as a wick to draw up the melted fat and sustain the flame. For this, they turned to the plant world, using twisted plant fibers, reeds, dried moss, or strips of bark that would absorb the melted fat and burn slowly. Imagine the transformative power of these first lamps illuminating the dark recesses of caves, where our ancestors created their magnificent art. Before these lamps, such expressions would have been impossible. The flickering light allowed them to extend their days, to gather, to share stories, and to plan. No longer bound by the rigid schedule of the sun, human culture began to flourish in ways previously unimaginable. These early lamps weren't just tools. They were revolutionary technology that changed how humans lived, worked, and connected with one another. The warm glow of these primitive lamps became the center of community life, drawing people together around a shared light source. Here's something fascinating. In ancient Greece, oil lamps became so essential to daily life that they transcended their practical purpose and gained economic value. These lamps, particularly those filled with olive oil, were sometimes used as currency in certain commercial transactions. Imagine trading goods not for coins, but for the precious commodity of light itself. The Greeks understood what our earliest ancestors had discovered, that the power to create light was among humanity's most valuable achievements. It represented not just technological innovation, but freedom from one of nature's most fundamental limitations. What started with a simple observation, animal fat burns, led to one of humanity's first great triumphs over the natural world. This wasn't just the discovery of a new tool, it was the beginning of our long relationship with artificial light, a relationship that continues to evolve even today, thousands of years later. But animal fat wasn't the only breakthrough in humanity's quest for light. At some point in our ancient past, our ancestors made an extraordinary discovery. Beeswax could create an even better source of illumination. This discovery would forever change how humans lived, worshipped, and connected with the divine. Imagine walking through an ancient Egyptian temple where the gentle flicker of beeswax candles cast dancing shadows on the walls. These candles burned cleaner and longer than animal fat lamps, producing a steadier, brighter flame with less smoke. The sweet, subtle aroma of burning beeswax filled sacred spaces, creating an atmosphere that seemed to bridge the gap between the earthly and the divine. In ancient Egypt, beeswax candles were so precious that they were often listed in temple inventories alongside gold and precious gems. The Egyptians believed that bees were the tears of the sun god Ra, falling to earth and transforming into these remarkable insects. This made beeswax a sacred substance worthy of illuminating their most important religious ceremonies. The Romans too recognized the superior quality of beeswax candles. While common people still relied on tallow candles made from animal fat, beeswax candles were reserved for temples and the homes of the wealthy. In fact, ancient Roman tax records show that beeswax was sometimes accepted as currency, worth its weight in precious metals. But perhaps the most fascinating use of beeswax candles came from the early Christian church. They developed an entire symbolic language around these candles. The pure white wax represented Christ's pure flesh, formed within the Virgin Mary's womb, while the flame symbolized divine light illuminating the darkness of the human soul. Even today, many churches maintain this ancient tradition, using only pure beeswax candles in their most sacred ceremonies. The discovery of beeswax as a source of light wasn't just a practical innovation, it was a revolution in how humans experienced their spiritual lives. These clean-burning, long-lasting candles transformed dark temples and churches into spaces of divine illumination, where the boundary between heaven and earth seemed to dissolve in their gentle golden light. The discovery of vegetable oils marked another brilliant chapter in humanity's quest to conquer darkness. Picture ancient Mediterranean villages nestled among rolling hills covered with olive groves. These silver-leaved trees provided more than just food. They gave birth to a revolution in lighting that would transform ancient civilization. Olive oil, in particular, became the cornerstone of ancient Mediterranean life. Unlike animal fats, which often produce smoke and unpleasant odors, olive oil burned with a clean, steady flame. The Greeks discovered that by designing special clay lamps with small nozzles to hold the wick, they could control the flow of oil and create a longer-lasting, more reliable light source. Here's something fascinating. In ancient Athens, olive oil was so valuable that the city awarded large quantities of it to winners of the athletic games. Winners of the Panathenaic Games could receive up to 140 amphorae of sacred olive oil, enough to light their homes for years or sell for a small fortune. The Romans took this innovation even further. They developed sophisticated bronze and silver oil lamps with multiple wicks, creating brighter light for their grand villas and public buildings. Roman merchants traveled vast distances to trade these precious oils, establishing trade routes that would last for centuries. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of this story is how olive oil became a form of currency. In ancient Greece, oil lamps were sometimes accepted as payment for goods and services. Imagine walking into a market in ancient Athens, carrying not coins, but beautifully crafted oil lamps filled with precious olive oil. Speaking of living without electric light, Have you ever wondered how different your life would be if you had to rely on oil lamps? Take a moment to think about it and share your thoughts in the comments below. Would you be able to adapt to life by lamplight? If you're enjoying this journey through the history of human innovation, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the Dawn of Humankind. Hit that notification bell to join us on more adventures through time, where we uncover the fascinating stories that shaped our world. And remember, sometimes the simplest discoveries can ignite the greatest revolutions in human history. The brilliance of our ancestors wasn't limited to creating light. They discovered that oils and waxes held secrets far beyond illumination. These versatile substances became their allies in the daily struggle against nature's harshest elements. Imagine ancient Egyptian laborers working under the scorching desert sun. They discovered that by applying certain oils to their skin, they could protect themselves from the brutal heat. The earliest known sunscreen wasn't a modern invention at all. It was a mixture of olive oil and aromatic resins. Egyptian noblewomen would apply these oils to maintain their complexions, creating what might be the world's first beauty treatment. In the frozen landscapes of the north, Norse people used animal fats and oils to protect their skin from biting winds and extreme cold. They learned that whale oil and seal blubber, when applied to exposed skin, created a protective barrier against frostbite. These same substances would keep their leather clothing supple and water-resistant during long sea voyages. But perhaps the most ingenious use of wax came in food preservation. Ancient civilizations discovered that a thin layer of beeswax could seal containers, keeping food fresh for months. In the tombs of Egyptian pharaohs, archaeologists have found honey preserved in wax-sealed jars, still edible after thousands of years. This discovery revolutionized food storage and trade throughout the ancient world. The Romans developed this preservation technique further, using wax to seal amphorae containing wine, olive oil, and grain. These sealed containers would journey across the Mediterranean, feeding armies and supplying distant colonies. Some Roman shipwrecks discovered by modern archaeologists still contain perfectly preserved foods, protected by their ancient wax seals. In ancient China, people discovered that certain waxes could waterproof paper and fabric. They used wax-treated paper umbrellas and clothing, creating early forms of water-resistant gear. Chinese doctors also used wax to create protective coatings for medicinal pills, essentially inventing the first time-release medications. These discoveries highlight the incredible resourcefulness of our ancestors. Through careful observation and experimentation, they transformed simple substances into versatile tools for survival. From the scorching deserts to the frozen Arctic, from food preservation to medical treatments, oils and waxes became essential elements in humanity's toolkit for survival and advancement. The mystical properties of beeswax held such power over ancient civilizations that its story reads like a tale of sacred treasure. In fact, beeswax was so precious that many ancient societies had specific laws protecting beehives. In early medieval England, stealing a beehive was punishable by the same severe penalties as horse theft, sometimes even death. The ancient Egyptians took their reverence for beeswax to extraordinary levels. In their sacred texts, beeswax was described as a substance created from the tears of the sun, god Ra himself. They believed this divine origin gave beeswax magical properties of preservation and protection. When preparing their dead for the afterlife, Egyptian embalmers would use beeswax to seal the wrappings of mummies, believing it would help preserve the body for eternity. But here's something fascinating. Modern science has proven these ancient Egyptians weren't entirely wrong. Beeswax contains natural antibacterial properties, and when used in mummification, it actually did help preserve organic materials. Some Egyptian mummies, sealed with beeswax thousands of years ago, still maintain remarkably preserved features today. In ancient Rome, master sculptors would first create their masterpieces in beeswax before casting them in bronze. This technique, known as lost wax casting, was so precise that it captured even the smallest details of their art. Some of these magnificent bronze statues still exist today, their perfect details preserved thanks to the precise properties of beeswax. The Greeks had another intriguing use for beeswax. They used it to create death masks of their beloved dead. They would press warm, pliable beeswax against the face of the deceased, creating a perfect impression that would harden into a lasting memorial. These masks were so detailed that they captured every line and feature of the person's face, creating what we might think of as an ancient photograph. In ancient China, beeswax was worth its weight in gold. Chinese medicine men used it in various healing potions, believing it could preserve youth and vitality. They weren't entirely wrong. Modern research has shown that beeswax contains compounds that can help heal skin and fight inflammation. Even more remarkable was the use of beeswax in ancient shipbuilding. Phoenician sailors would use it to waterproof their vessels, mixing beeswax with other substances to create a protective coating that allowed them to venture further into unknown waters than ever before. This same technique was later adopted by Vikings, helping them become the fearsome seafarers we know from history. These ancient uses of beeswax show us just how observant and innovative our ancestors were. They recognized the unique properties of this natural substance and found countless ways to put it to use, from the sacred to the practical, from preservation to creation. The secrets of beeswax, discovered thousands of years ago, continue to amaze us even today. The legacy of oil and wax stretches far beyond ancient times, weaving an unbroken thread from our earliest ancestors to the modern world we know today. These simple substances, discovered through necessity and curiosity, laid the foundation for countless innovations that we now take for granted. Think about the lip balm in your pocket or the moisturizer on your bathroom shelf. These modern products are direct descendants of the ancient Egyptians' use of oils and waxes for skin protection. The cosmetics industry, worth billions today, began with those first experiments in combining natural waxes with oils and herbs for beauty and protection. The ancient art of candle making has evolved into modern manufacturing processes, but the basic principles remain unchanged. Today's sophisticated wax formulations, used in everything from scented candles to industrial lubricants, can trace their origins back to those first beeswax candles that illuminated ancient temples. Here's something remarkable. The same properties that made oils valuable for ancient lamps eventually led to the discovery of petroleum and the development of modern fuels. Those first experiments with olive oil lamps created a foundation of knowledge about how oils burn, ultimately leading to the engines that power our world today. The ancient practice of using wax seals for preservation has transformed into modern food packaging technology. The same principles that kept Egyptian honey fresh for thousands of years now help preserve our food through advanced wax-based coatings and sealants. Even in medicine, the legacy continues. The ancient Chinese use of wax-based medications has evolved into modern pharmaceutical coating techniques. Today's time-release medications use sophisticated wax-based compounds to control how drugs are released into our bodies, a direct evolution from those ancient healing practices. In the world of art, the lost wax casting technique perfected by ancient Romans is still used by sculptors and jewelers today. Modern 3D printing technology has even adapted some of these principles for creating precise, detailed objects. But perhaps the most important legacy isn't in the products themselves, but in the spirit of innovation they represent. Our ancestors' willingness to experiment, to observe, and to improve upon their discoveries set a pattern that drives human progress to this day. They showed us that the simplest materials in creative hands can revolutionize how we live. Every time we start our cars, apply lip balm or light a candle, we're connecting with this ancient legacy of human ingenuity. It's a reminder that even the most basic discoveries can have far-reaching consequences that echo through thousands of years of human history. The story of oil and wax isn't just about the past. It's about humanity's endless capacity for innovation and our ability to build upon the knowledge of those who came before us. As we reach the end of our illuminating journey through time, we can see that oil and wax were far more than mere natural resources. They were revolutionary tools that allowed humans to push back the darkness, protect their bodies, and preserve their precious food supplies. These remarkable discoveries remind us that innovation often springs from necessity and careful observation of the world around us. Just imagine the same curiosity and resourcefulness that led our ancestors to create the first oil lamps and wax seals continues to drive human progress today. From those humble beginnings with animal fats and beeswax, we've developed sophisticated technologies that light our cities and power our modern world. But this makes me wonder, and perhaps you're wondering too, what will be our legacy? What discoveries and innovations will we leave behind for future generations to marvel at? What will they say about us thousands of years from now, just as we look back in awe at the ingenuity of our ancestors? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. What do you think will be remembered as the greatest innovation of our time? Share your ideas in the comments below. Let's start a conversation about the future of human innovation. If you've enjoyed this journey through ancient history, don't forget to light up that like button and share this video with your friends who love exploring the mysteries of our past. Subscribe to the Dawn of Humankind and ring that notification bell to join us on more fascinating adventures through time. We have so many more incredible stories to share about the ancient world. Thank you for being part of this remarkable journey through time. Until our next historical adventure, remember that every great innovation starts with a simple observation and the courage to experiment. See you in our next video.